Most D2C brands are leaving 30 to 50% of revenue on the table every single month because they rely on an outdated email flow strategy and they're blasting generic campaigns to their entire list. Then they wonder why their email marketing isn't growing. Now, after helping hundreds of 7- and 8-figure D2C brands with their email marketing, I've seen firsthand the brands that are making millions per month from email use a simple 3-part system: grow, optimize, and multiply. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to implement all 3 steps to build flows and campaigns that help to unlock more scale for your brand. Okay, so the first piece of this 3-part system is grow. And without this piece, honestly, nothing else scales. And growth breaks down into 2 different parts. Number 1 is how many people are joining your list, and number 2 is how quickly and how many people are leaving your list. Most brands fail at both of these things. And the reason this is so important is because if you can get more people to join your list in the first place, you're going to make more money from flows and more money from campaigns. And the best way to do this is through a pop-up. Now, before you roll your eyes, most brands get the pop-up completely wrong, and oftentimes it ends up looking something like this. Now, the problem with most pop-ups, and the one that I showed you right there, is a weak or unclear offer oftentimes. Second is poor timing. So either displaying too early or too late, having it display immediately when someone hits the website or having it display after like a minute or a minute and a half. The third is too many input fields. You're just asking for way too much information, and oftentimes it's information that isn't really relevant. The fourth is generic messaging, so just not personalizing content and not personalizing the pop-up. The fifth is not optimizing for mobile. This is one that I see so many brands miss out on. It's just having a pop-up that is desktop and mobile combined into one, or just using Klaviyo's auto adjust feature. Would not recommend doing that. I would recommend having one for mobile and one for desktop, and then looking at how you can optimize each one of them separately. And then finally, on that note, is a lack of A/B testing. Without testing your designs, your offer, your timing, you lose so much in terms of optimization opportunities. So here's how to actually grow your list faster. This is the exact pop-up framework and structure that we use for all of our clients. The first is a teaser, and this is basically like the first step that people see. And what we want to do here is just get a micro commitment. There shouldn't be any opt-in fields or anything like that. That's for the second step. The second step is going to be an email opt-in. This is where we ask for only the email. This third step is going to be where we ask for SMS, which is collecting the phone number. And the fourth is the confirmation and then making sure that offer is getting delivered to them via email. I would not recommend having it in the thank you page. Now, in terms of best practices here, what I recommend is just using a super clear and compelling offer. People should be able to see it and understand it very, very quickly. If you need to read it or reread it, or like you need help understanding what it is not a good offer. And like I said, I'd recommend creating a separate pop-up for mobile and desktop. Use the same offer, use the same language and things like that, but just separate the pop-ups for mobile and desktop, because you're going to want to make different tweaks and optimizations based off of each one of them. The third thing is just going to be triggering at a 8 to 12 second delay and a 35% scroll depth. And then fourth is just A/B testing your offer first. A/B testing copy, A/B testing colors, images versus no images, different style of images, so like lifestyle versus product. There's a ton of different tests that you can do, and I'd highly recommend doing them. In terms of what your target should be here, you should be shooting for anywhere between a 5 and 12% opt-in rate. Now, the second step to this system is optimize. And what I'm going to share with you today is the 80-20 on flows that print. Flows are basically just automated sequences based off of something that someone did or did not do. And our goal here is to address objections and meet people where they're at in their buyer journey, in their customer journey. And there's basically 4 core flows that are going to drive anywhere from like 60 to 80% of flow revenue. The first is the welcome series. So the trigger is just when someone subscribes to the newsletter. So the filters we're going to want to have are they have not added to cart, started checkout, placed order since starting this flow. And they also have been in this flow 0 times over all time. We don't want people constantly getting into this flow. They shouldn't be if your pop-up is set up properly, but we add this as like kind of a safeguard so that people aren't constantly getting into this flow. Now, the goal of the welcome series is 3 things. One is to build status. So show where you've been featured, who loves you, showcase testimonials and that type of thing. The second is trust. So explaining how things are made, what goes into it, fulfilling the offer that you promised people in the pop-up, making sure that that matches properly, sharing reviews, sharing behind the scenes, sharing some PR, that type of thing. And then believe, showing results, showing comparisons, demonstrating real usage. And if you have any sort of USPs that can serve as a risk reversal, like a money back guarantee or a 30-day comfort guarantee or something along those lines, use that here. Now, in terms of the content that we're going to have in the welcome series, email 1 is going to be a welcome and then just delivering the offer. Whatever you said that you were going to give them, we want to make sure that it's front and center, that is the first thing that they see, and that they get that offer right away. Email 2 is going to be brand story and an offer reminder. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about the brand here, especially if there is a strong, compelling story. Email 3 is going to be highlighting USPs and really like kind of educating people about the brand. Make sure here, instead of just talking about why you're so sick, talk about why the brand is relevant to the end user. So instead of just being like, hey, we're awesome because XYZ or whatever, same thing with the brand story, talk about why it's actually relevant to the brand user. Email 4 is going to be highlighting social proof and top sellers. Email 5 is going to be basically just like a last chance offer of the welcome series. Ideally, you actually make this so that it does expire. You don't have to, but I would recommend it. Email 6 is going to be a product quiz. So this is basically at that point where it's like, hey, are you interested? Like, is there a pulse here? Do we have any degree of relevance to you? Are you interested in anything? So we're just trying to like see, hey, what are you actually interested in? And then we can curate content based off of that as well. The second flow that I'm going to run through today is the browse abandonment flow. The trigger here is when someone hits a product page, but didn't add to cart, didn't initiate checkout, and did not purchase. The filters that we're going to have here, similar to the welcome series, is going to be they have added to cart, checkout started, and placed order 0 times, any one of those, since starting this flow. And they've been in this flow 0 times in the last 14 days. Now, depending on how aggressive you want to be, you could change that to 14 days or 10 days or 25 days or 7 days. And our goal with this flow is to just bring them back to the site so that they can add to cart, so that they can purchase. We're not trying to push the sale necessarily in this email. What we're really just trying to do is get them back to the store and keep up that engagement. And the common objections that we're going to try to deal with here is just going to be a product related objection. So it could be fit, it could be features, it could be variance, it could be usage uncertainty, it could be trust related objections. So it could be credibility, reviews, guarantees, security concerns. It could be pricing, right? Perceived value, discounts, shipping costs, that type of thing. And what we want to do is, again, look at this through the lens of what is relevant to your brand, right? You may not have guarantees. If you do have guarantees, they can be really, really beneficial. And you might not do discounts. That's fine. There's different ways that you can handle different objections, but really what we want to do is handle the objections that people have at this particular level. Because they, at this point, might not even know that they want this product, right? They're just browsing, right? They might be looking at you versus like 10 other brands. And if they're doing that, they might not maybe they don't want your product. Maybe they want something else. So it might be beneficial in email 1 or email 2 to showcase some best sellers, showcase some of the things that your customers love the most too, right? And that might even help to convert people. So in terms of the browse abandonment content, I hit on this a little bit, but email 1 is just a simple reminder. Email 2 is going to be product benefits and then potentially related items if it's relevant to your brand. Email 3 is going to be a social proof email and then potentially adding an offer in there specifically for non-purchasers. So we're having something like a 10% off or 15% off or something like that. And then email 4 is going to be last chance on that offer. Now, the third email flow I'm going to run through today is going to be usually one of your top 1 or 2 revenue producing flows that you will have. This is the abandoned checkout flow. The abandoned checkout flow trigger is when someone has initiated checkout, but they didn't purchase. So our filters on this one are going to be placed order 0 times since starting this flow, been in this flow 0 times in the last 14 days, again, depending on your brand. And actually one other one I'd add on is bounce email 0 times. Like their email hasn't bounced since being in this flow. And our goal here is, again, to handle common objections that people have after they've actually hit the checkout page. Now, those objections are going to be wildly different than someone who's just hit a product page. People who have initiated checkout, people who have got to that checkout page, they've maybe added their address, they maybe added their credit card information. They know what they want. They know exactly what they want, but maybe they got distracted. Maybe they don't trust you. Maybe there's an issue with shipping time or shipping cost. Maybe there's an issue with product cost. Maybe there's something else, right? Those are the core objections that we will usually try to handle there. But the main thing to consider here too is what's the most relevant for your brand. If you're selling high, like very, very high value jewelry, one of the big things might just be trust. So you might need to have a couple emails building that. And maybe there's different ways that you do that, like trust through social proof or trust through guarantees or trust through, talking about the story and how long you've been around for and things like that, right? You just need to think about what are the common objections that people usually have for my brand too. But these are some of the most common ones we see. So this is what the content looks like. Email 1 is just going to be a simple reminder. the I forgot objection. Email 2 is going to be social proof and reassurance, the trust objection. Email 3 is going to be handling other objections and potentially adding additional social proof in there. Email 4 is going to be handling the pricing objection. So this is going to be offering an incentive. And usually what we'll do is we'll build a conditional split out and we'll say if someone has purchased before, they are not getting this discount. If someone has not purchased before, they will get this discount. Email 5 will be a reminder of that incentive or like scarcity or urgency. And email 6 is going to be an FAQs. It could be a check-in. Again, it kind of just depends on your brand, but oftentimes a customer service check-in works really, really well here. Now, the last flow I want to review with you today is the post-purchase thank you flow. The trigger here is after someone placed an order. And the filters are going to be they've refunded or canceled an order 0 times in starting this flow. And oftentimes what we'll do is we'll build out conditional splits or even separate flows for first time, second time, and third time customers. Now our goal here, and this is where a lot of brands drop the ball, our goal here is to thank people, express genuine appreciation, and help them achieve their desired outcome. Because where a lot of brands drop the ball is like the moment credit card is received, they're like, cool, I got your money, peace, I'm out. Not great, right? What we want to do and how you build loyalty and how you build a repeat purchase rate and how you build more referrals coming from your brand, coming from people for your brand is by having a great product and making sure people actually get what they want out of that product. Because if you have a supplement brand, or if you have a skincare brand, or if you have a brand where it requires literally people to do anything, even if you include instructions, they will get it wrong. People are oftentimes dumb, right? So consider that. Now, in terms of the content we're gonna have here, email 1, like I said, is gonna be a thank you and an order confirmation. Email 2 is gonna be actually hyping people up, getting people excited, getting people fired up, making sure that you validate the fact that they just parted ways with their hard-earned money. They made the right decision. Email 3 is going to be product education and usage. This is more relevant for skincare, supplement, any products where it requires a degree of usage or education. If you sell clothing, perhaps not relevant. Here's how you wear a shirt. Email 4 is going to be social proof and community. So again, building that social proof, getting people excited, validating the fact that they made the right choice here. And the third step in this process is multiply. So grow is the pop-up. Optimize is your flows and optimizing that system and optimizing your acquisition system and your post-purchase system. Multiply is campaigns, and campaigns have a very high compound effect. As your list grows, your campaign revenue will scale with it, but many brands will plateau for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is segmentation. Segmentation is basically who receives your email and who is excluded, aka who is not receiving your email. If you have one without the other, things will not perform very well. Now that who is receiving your content is so important, and how you create segments is again going to be slightly dependent on your brand, but the simplest way is through a method called RFV, recency, frequency, and monetary value. So basically it's recency, so how recently did someone do a thing? Frequency is how many times someone did a thing, and then value is the value of whatever they did. So usually that's going to be like, hey, they've purchased 3 times and they spent $300, or they purchased 2 times and they spent $5,000. The higher one each one of these is, the higher level of intent someone has. If someone has and I should say, like with recency, it's like the more recently someone has done something. So if someone added to cart 7 times in the last 24 hours, that's pretty high value, right? Or that's a very high engaged segment. There's not necessarily a value correlated to that, unless you start breaking down and start building out conditional splits based off of cart value, right? If you want to track that, you can. Usually when we're talking value though, we're talking about like, has someone purchased or have they not? And if so, if they have purchased, how much have they spent? Now, these are the core segments that we'll use. What I'd recommend here is don't overcomplicate it, but also think about what's relevant to your brand as well. So usually what we'll do is we'll do a 30, 60, 90 day engaged leads segment, which is people have opened or clicked at least once in the last 30, 60, or 90 days, and they've placed orders 0 times overall time, and they can receive email marketing. That would be our 3 first segments. Our next 3 segments are going to be a 30, 60, 90 day engaged purchasers, basically the same segment, except now we're saying they have placed an order at least once overall time, right? And the reason for this is because some content might be relevant for purchasers, some content might not be relevant for purchasers, and some content might only be relevant for people who haven't purchased a product. Or it might not be relevant for someone who has purchased a product, right? Like a how-to, debatably relevant for both. A product spotlight, not terribly relevant for someone who's already purchased that product. And then an all purchasers segment. So this is like anyone who's purchased at least once overall time. And then finally, we use unengaged segments as well. So this is like one of the main unengaged segments we'll create. they've received at least 10 emails in the last 90 or 180 days. They have opened it 0 times, they have clicked 0 times, and they can receive email marketing. Now, reason number 2 that this multiply piece plateaus is content, because campaigns really break down into who you're sending to, what you're sending to them, and at what time you're sending to them. But this is the second reason, and one of the biggest reasons why things plateau or things break, or you just don't generate anywhere near as much revenue as you could from your campaigns. If you're sending the same content to everyone, it's highly repetitive, or it's just irrelevant content or content that sucks, engagement will drop. Now, plateau reasons, all of these reasons really come down to one thing, which is engagement. So you keep engagement high by being intentional about who you're sending to, aka segmentation, about what they're receiving, which is the content, and then about when you are sending that content to. When is like a third tertiary thing, because like usually we'll test that when very early on, but it's still relevant. Like if you're sending content to people at a time where they're probably not going to purchase or be on their computer or be on their phone or whatever, potentially irrelevant. So anyways, I hope this helped. This is the exact framework that we use for all of our clients when we're helping them scale from 7 to 8 figures. Now, if you do have a brand that's doing over $100,000 a month in revenue and you don't want to do this yourself, go ahead, click the link below. There should be a link where you can apply for a free strategy call. It will be myself on that call, so yours truly. Again, we only have 4 slots per month that we'll onboard clients on, but if you do qualify and we think we can help you out, we will. And yeah, we can take it from there. Thanks so much and have a great day.